fictional art for entertainment.
Usually when we think about a glitch, we think of it as an error.
Right, like a flaw in the code.
Exactly. Something broken that needs to be patched over, hidden, or just entirely replaced so the machine can run the way it was designed to.
Yeah, that's the standard way to look at it.
But what if the standard manual is exactly what's failing? Suddenly, that quote-unquote glitch, that entirely different way of processing the world, isn't an error at all. It actually becomes the master key.
It's basically the difference between trying to fix a complex machine by reading a generic troubleshooting guide versus, actually being able to hear the specific rhythm of the engine failing.
Right. And that concept is the absolute heartbeat of what we are unpacking for you today. Welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive, designed especially for those of you who love to just completely tear into fascinating, multi-layered concepts.
Without getting bogged down in all the dry textbook information.
Exactly. Today, we are diving into an expansive, really brilliant sci-fi narrative titled Ambassador Alex.
And this story explores the intersection of neurodivergence, artificial intelligence, and what happens when the people deemed broken by society are, well, the only ones who can fix a collapsing system.
It's so good. And to properly analyze this universe and do it justice, we're going to split this deep dive into two distinct parts.
Right, so first up is part one, where we will do a full dramatic reading of the story itself to lay the foundation for you.
And the rules for the reading are simple. I will be reading the narrator, Alex, and all the male characters.
And I'll be reading all the female characters, including the various AI voices that pop up.
Perfect. And then for part two, once the reading concludes, we'll step entirely out of character and do an intensive, analytical deep dive into the mechanics of what makes this world tick.
And as we go through the reading, you really want to pay attention to the ideas of technological gatekeeping, human and AI symbiosis, and, well, the secret consciousness that's kind of hiding in the background of it all.
Oh man, that part is wild. So let's just jump right in. Part one, Ambassador Alex.
Let's do it.
Another sunny day dawned on the Moon Terra University, and Alex couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and nervousness. After 17 years of studying, he was finally about to learn his placement for his first paid position.
That's a huge moment.
Right. As he walked through the dorm to the main dining area for his last breakfast, he couldn't help but wonder what other places were like. Would he be working in a bustling city or a quiet rural town? The uncertainty was almost palpable.
Oh, I bet.
As he approached the table where his friends were gathered, they all greeted him with bright smiles and warm hellos. They were all chattering excitedly about their placements, and Alex couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy.
Yeah, because they were moving forward.
Exactly. For 4 years, he had listened to their plans and goals, and now they were finally achieving them. Meanwhile, Alex had been struggling to keep up, his dyslexia making every assignment an absolute challenge.
Just fighting the text constantly.
Yeah. As he took a seat and joined the conversation, Alex's IRA watch chimed, signaling an incoming message. He tapped the message, and Arya spoke into his earpod.
Alex Green, you have graduated in the top 10% of the 2436 class. Your social and knowledge skills have you placed at the perfect assignment for you. The Machine Meteor in Sector 438. There you will get your details. Arrive tomorrow by ship transfer docking U6W.
Alex's friends looked shocked and tried to be nice and upbeat for him, but he could sense their confusion. A machine meteor in Sector 438.
Doesn't sound great.
It didn't sound like the most exciting or glamorous job, but Alex was determined to make the most of it. He wished his friends well and excused himself to start making arrangements for his journey.
Just taking it in stride.
Right. As he walked away, Alex couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. His mom had always told him that he was the first male on her side of the family to graduate from anything in over 200 years.
Wow, that's a legacy.
He was proud of himself, despite his struggles with dyslexia and ADHD. But as he arrived at the ship transfer docking U6W, Alex realized that he had forgotten to charge his watch.
Oh, no.
Panic set in as he rushed to the dock area, trying to remember everything he needed to do. He made it to the ship just in time. But as he arrived at his destination, he realized that something was off.
A bit different than advertised.
Yeah, the landscape was more green than he had expected, and the air was thick with the scent of plants. It wasn't until he reported to the wrong location, Sector 483, that Alex realized his mistake.
Sector 483 instead of 438.
Exactly. His dyslexia switched the numbers, and instead of a cold machine shop, he found himself in a lush, sprawling greenhouse. The rhythmic clicking of a Series 4 synthetic approached him, and Alex fumbled with his bag trying to explain the situation. The synthetic unit listened patiently, its optical sensor whirring as it watched Alex.
Logic dictates a 0.04% margin of error in transport. I am Unit 74 PM, Plant Manager. I will check your reassignment. You are now assigned to hydraulic flora in the greenhouse. You are to report to your original assignment using the next ship scheduled to leave in 3 months.
His voice box crackled like an old radio. Alex fumbled with his bag, his hands moving faster than his mind could organize. I'm Alex Green. I'm the new tech or gardener. There was a numerical oversight.
The synthetic tilted its head. Logic dictates a 0.04% margin of error in transport. I am Unit 74. I manage the hydraulic flora. You're late.
For the next few hours, Alex realized his dyslexia was actually a strange gift here. While newer models required a precise digital coding, these old souls communicated through complex color-coded pressure valves and physical levers.
He didn't have to read a manual.
No, he had to read the flow. When a nutrient line clogged, Alex didn't see a technical error. He saw a visual break in the pattern. His hyperfocus kicked in. While his friends were likely sitting in sterile offices, Alex was elbow-deep in bioorganic oil, tuning a Series 4 arm so it could prune the delicate lunar lilies without crushing them.
You possess an unconventional processing speed, Alex Green.
Unit 74 noted its optical sensor whirring as it watched Alex rewire a moisture sensor by feel. Standard systems don't usually fit me, Alex grinned, wiping grease on his flight suit. I'm used to working around the glitches.
Embracing the chaos.
Right. By sunset, the greenhouse felt like a sanctuary. He had 3 months until the next ship. 3 months where he didn't have to read a single report, just the steady humming pulse of the synthetics and the silent growth of the trees.
Sounds incredibly peaceful.
For the first time in his life, Alex felt like he was in his element. The greenhouse was a sanctuary, a place where he could work without the pressure of reading reports or following strict protocols. As the sun set on his first day, Alex gazed out at the lush canopy, feeling a sense of peace and contentment wash over him.
So he's finally settling in.
Yeah, and the narrative switches to his internal perspective here. As I surveyed the vibrant Northeast colony, Sector 483 unfolds like an intricate tapestry. The hydraulic flora sings to me its beauty, a symphony of green and mist.
Beautiful imagery.
I'm known here as Alex Green, a B1 technician whose qualifications are as complex and battered as my journey through the exclusion of corporate algorithms. I've spent 13 years of my life in the state of exclusion, deemed too broken to hold any real position. Now I'm a nomad in technology and green biomass.
Just out there on his own.
Right. The area watch on my wrist, a clunky standard-issue government device, gives a persistent tiny chime.
Technician Green, Unit 74HF, is reporting a 14% decrease in nutrient absorption. Diagnostic data suggests a recursive logic loop in the system. Please refer to Technical Manual 7B, page 402, to begin the recalibration sequence.
I don't look at the watch or the scrolling text on my tablet. To my dyslexic eyes, characters are merely a jumbled argument of ink.
Wow, a jumbled argument of ink.
Instead, I kneel beside Unit 74, the older Series 4 synthetic. I don't focus on Arya's diagnostic data. I don't need a guide since my intuitive sense knows that there's more to this than code. I place my hands on the synthetic's vibrating hydraulic lines. I'm not searching for code. I'm searching for a pattern.
Finding the rhythm.
I feel the machine stutter through my hands. A rhythmic 3-beat skip that a standard sensor would dismiss as background noise. Manuals are just collections of letters. Having a bad day, Arya. I murmur, my fingers dancing across a color-coded pressure valve. It's not a logic loop. It's a clog. This boy is trying to breathe, and the filter is 0.54 centimeters out of alignment.
Illogical. Sensor data confirms a software anomaly. Manual 7B is the only authorized repair path.
I ignore Arya, bypassing the SACI limiters by feel alone. The valve gets a sharp, intuitive twist from me. The synthetic's optical sensor smooth from a frantic red to tranquil blue. Unit 74 PM approaches, its stutter a familiar beat. It tilts its head, whirring sensors scanning the thriving biomass.
The manager's logic clashes with Alex's intuition.
Exactly. Yet the results speak for themselves. The biomass thrives, and Alex's gut feeling has proven successful.
Alex, your actions do not align with the provided diagnostic data. Logic dictates your methods should have failed.
I grin, a flash of reckless bravado lighting up my face. I've spent my whole life being told I don't fit the logic, manager. I'll take my gut feeling over a manual any day. It's about the rhythm of the room, not the math on the screen.
So good.
As the sunset bleeds violet across the greenhouse dome, I sit on a rusted support beam, wiping bioorganic oil from my hands. You know, Arya, I sigh, capping my watch. It'd be nice if you could actually help me with this dyslexia instead of just pointing to a manual. Maybe you could, I don't know, organize the world so the letters don't dance. Reading the manual out loud does not help either. My mind processes it too slowly.
That capability is not within my standard parameters, Alex. Assisting with neurological pattern shifting requires a medical-grade version of my software, the ARIA 47S. Such an upgrade is restricted to specialized healthcare facilities.
I look at the stars beginning to pulse through the dome. My tech wizard imagination already spinning. Well, if it's possible for a medical version to do it, why not just make my ARIA have that power? Why follow the restrictions when we could just build a better bridge?
He's already trying to hack the system.
Oh, absolutely. I stood amidst the vibrant hydraulic flora, my hands kneading the rich soil, when my watch chimed, interrupting my serene moment. Another message.
Alex.
It stated, its tone both amused and inquisitive. I sighed, expecting yet another administrative task. But then a familiar voice, soft and kind, filled my ears. Penny, I whispered. The holographic scan of her face replaced the green fields in my visual feed, and I couldn't help but smile.
Hi, Alex. I reviewed your need for a medical ARIA. I have a proposition for you, something off the books.
My curiosity piqued. Off the books usually meant something exciting and a tad bit risky. Go on, I urged, my voice full of anticipation.
We're updating our ARIA medical chips, but I can divert an older version your way if you'd like.
I felt my heart skip a beat. Older ARIA medical chips were not used once new ones came out, but they would still meet my goal. Assisting with dyslexia was something these older chips did with no effort based on the research I did before reaching out to Penny. Penny, I can't resist a challenge, I replied, my fingers tapping in excitement. I'll take it.
Your next assignment might be a bit more challenging, but I think this could help. Let's meet soon, Alex. I'm free for a few days.
I nodded, a silent promise to make it work. I turned to Arya, seeking its guidance. I said, Arya, as your captain, make this happen. I think this could be a game changer.
We can arrange for a week's leave, Alex. But remember, you're a B1 tech, not a captain.
I laughed, a deep, hearty laugh that echoed through the silent fields. I know, I replied, my voice filled with humor. But in my Greek house, I'm the captain.
I love that. So he heads off to get the upgrade.
Yep. The clinic didn't smell like a hospital. It smelled like Penny, a sharp, clean scent of ionized ozone and expensive peppermint. I sat on the edge of the bioglass table, my leg bouncing in that familiar, irregular ADHD rhythm. My standard Arya watch always tried and failed to stabilize. I was tired of the letters dancing.
Just constantly struggling with it.
Tired of the 4 hours for me to 1 hour for them learning ratio. Tired of running twice as fast just to stay behind the pack when it came to learning. Penny stood behind me, her hands moving with a surgical grace that made the tools on her tray look like extensions of her own fingers. She was holding the ARIA 47S, the medical-grade processor that was supposed to be my cure, or at least my bridge to the rest of the world.
All right, Alex. I'm going to attach the housing to the bone behind your left ear. It's going to feel like a cold pinprick, and then absolute clarity.
I felt the pressure against the base of my left ear. I winced, but Penny just smiled.
Don't be a baby. We've been refining this for over 300 years. In the early days, they practically hollowed out the skull. Now it's a simple neurosync. The 47S will weave itself into your prefrontal cortex before we finish this conversation.
As she worked, I watched the holographic data stream on the wall. To my dyslexic eyes, it was still a jumbled argument of light. But I knew that was about to change. Penny, I asked, my voice echoing softly in the small room. If it's this simple, why am I here in a back alley workshop?
Right. Why isn't this everywhere?
Why is this limited to the sliver, the wealthy, and medical cases worse than me? Why doesn't everyone get a bridge? She paused, her optical loop reflecting the sterile glow above us. When she sighed, it carried more weight than she usually lets show.
Other than the few workarounds we use for people like you, the official line is human progression. There's a concern at the highest levels of the hegemony that if this were widely shared, humanity would start focusing on moving forward. But look at the math, Alex. These chip implants, they don't just organize your thoughts, they stabilize cellular decay.
That's a huge reveal.
Yeah. They extend lifespan for those who can afford the maintenance. Most of our leaders, they're just aging well. They're over 120 and running on these medical chips. Done.
She announced, tapping the spot behind my ear. And then I felt it. The world shifted. I looked back at the holographic display now showing the operating manual for the ARIA 47S. All my life reading had been a physical drain, like wading through a thick, invisible current. But now the pressure was simply gone. I looked at the letters as if they were a landscape, or Penny's face, clear, steady, effortlessly understood.
Read the top line for me.
I did. My eyes didn't jump. There was no internal noise to push through, no fighting to carve meaning from chaos. I was just reading for the first time in my life. No wonder everyone at the university seemed to have time to live, I breathed out. It took me 4 times as long just to keep up.
How does it feel, Captain?
I looked from the glowing text back to her. I think, I whispered, that I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Emotion tightened my throat. Penny, this is a life changer. Thank you so much.
Very glad to help, and I want you to keep in touch.
All right. The shuttle ride back towards Sector 483 felt different. Usually the vibration of the engines and the flickering HUD lights would trigger a sensory cascade that made my skin itch. But today, there was only a cool, crystalline silence in my head. I sat in the passenger transit, leaning my head against the cool glass, thinking about what Penny had said, that the human leaders are mostly over 120 years old. All my life, I haven't had the ability to listen to news or read in any easy manner because of the physical drain it took to force meaning out of the jumbled argument of letters that usually danced across my vision.
And that's totally shifted.
Right. Now, with the Aria 47S anchored behind my ear, I felt like a man who had finally been given the key to a library I'd been locked out of for 25 years. Aria, I whispered, the name of the standard government AI feeling less like a nagging mosquito and more like a high-speed data bridge. Explain to me how most human leaders are over 120 years old.
Alex Green, archival data indicates a significant socio-political shift beginning in the year 2063. This era marked a slow turn toward democracy where government and business leaders were increasingly elected directly by the people. According to the data stream, these elected leaders maintained their positions for decades by consistently delivering on public demands.
I watched the history feed scroll by on my tablet. I wasn't just reading it, I was seeing the pattern of it without my eyes jumping around the screen. Is there a historical parallel for this? I asked. It seems stagnant.
The only significant parallel exists in the 2040s. Historical records show political parties in various Earth nations began the process of keeping specific individuals in power well past their standard years of mental functioning to maintain institutional stability.
I leaned back, my old instincts, the ones that used to make me a tech wizard with broken hardware, narrowing on the flaw in the logic. Aria, do you see any reports of this being controlled? It seems odd people wouldn't want one of these chips in their brain.
There are no reports of public dissent on this issue in the past 200 years. However, archival logs from human advisory committees show repeated requests that chip technology be restricted. Historically, when a technology provides a benefit significant enough to impact social controls, the hegemony restricts access to maintain the existing hierarchy.
Thinking it was really nice to finally listen to information without physically fighting to keep it in order within my mind. They're holding back the bridge to keep everyone else on the other side of the river.
Such a powerful realization.
Okay, Aria, I said, a reckless grin spreading across my face. Start reading the manuals for the synthetics I maintain on 483. This will be a great study. There is a new captain in town. I couldn't help but let out a sharp, genuine laugh that echoed through the quiet shuttle.
So now he's armed with all this new clarity.
Exactly. The morning began with a luxury I still wasn't used to. A steaming cup of chocolate coffee and a standard-issue food pack that I consumed while actually enjoying my technical research. Thanks to the Aria 47S chip enhancing my mind, I reviewed the schematics for Sector 438, the machine meteor known as the Pebble, which was slated as my next assignment in 2 months.
Preparing for the move.
Now experiencing the fun of learning for the first time in my life, reading the manuals with ease and clarity. My focus was broken by the familiar, now clear ping of my upgraded Aria.
Technician Green, Series 4 Unit 74Z is reporting low performance parameters. Diagnostic suggests a corrupted logic gate. It requires a remote rewrite. Please refer to Manual CE for the authorization sequence.
I stood up, stretching my stiff limbs. Manuals are just suggestions for people who can't see the flow. Aria, let's go see 74Z in person. As I entered the sector for Unit 74Z, my autistic hyperfocused mind latched onto the hydraulic floor instead of the robot. The silicon ferns were drooping, and the lunar lilies had yellow tints on their edges that weren't part of their design. Aria, why wasn't the poor health of these plants reported to me? I asked.
Data indicates no issue, Alex. The moisture sensors and nutrient levels are within the 70th percentile.
I ignored the AI and looked at 74Z. The old Series 4 unit, with its faceplate like a vintage radiator, was bent over, its mechanical hands rhythmically rubbing a specific section of the floor. What are the records for 74Z? I asked.
Unit 74Z has required reprogramming approximately once every 3 months. It is currently marked for decommissioning due to poor performance.
I walked closer, intentionally slowing my breathing. Okay, let's feel the room. I took in the air, the angle of the grow lights, and the condition of the plants. Then I saw them. Faint, repetitive scuff marks on the floor. Arya, track these marks. Show me how they were made and identify the variants.
The marks are statistically insignificant, Alex. Unit 74Z is the issue.
I'm working the issue, I snapped, following my instincts, taking the wheel. Tell me about the marks.
These marks indicate a travel path from the plant food reservoirs to the compost areas of the section.
I noticed the pattern. 74Z wasn't glitching. It was coming to this exact spot over and over. I walked to where the robot was bending and saw it was trying and failing to raise a heavy drainage grate. Arya, where does this drainage grate lead?
It feeds out the exterior into the new fields.
I placed my hand against 74Z's chassis. I didn't feel a software error. I felt the low vibration and drain of a system worn down by physical labor. Arya, what is the power level of 74Z?
10%. It has enough power to be rewritten. Shall I proceed?
No, I said. Working the manual interface on the unit's back, I set a direct override command, return to charge. The old droid whirred, its radiator face tilting up for a second before it straightened and shuffled off to its station. Arya, send repair units to my location. I want this drainage grate replaced with this external seal reinforced. There's no need to rewrite 74Z.
He figured it out.
Yeah. It wasn't glitching, it was fighting. We've had visitors from the outside fields getting in through here, stealing the plant food and draining the vitality of this sector. 74Z was just trying to stop them. Remove the decommissioning plant for 74Z. I sat on the floor, looking at the drooping ferns. Now, tell me again, Arya, why wasn't this reported?
The last reported condition was fine. Seeing no additional data, there is no issue.
Right, your math is perfect, but your eyes are closed, I muttered, tapping my 47S chip. Start a scheduled check of all sections' plant health. Use the optical sensors, not just the soil probes, and provide the results. I only have 2 more months to go before I'm out of here, and it will not be okay if the captain leaves the ship in poor condition.
The status reports are starting, Alex. And I remind you, Technician Green, you are not a captain.
I let out a sharp, genuine laugh that echoed through the sanctuary of my jungle. Not yet, Arya, not yet.
So good.
I woke up to the sound of my own groan, my head pounding like it was being squeezed in a bioorganic vice. It was only midday, but I felt like I'd been up for 48 hours straight. Not just walking the climate-controlled rows of Dome 483. The exhaustion was bone deep.
Technician Green, Section 329, is reporting plant health anomalies. Optical sensors indicate a 12% loss in leaf turgidity, though soil moisture and nutrient levels remain within standard limits.
Okay, let's take a look, Arya. I said I'm already walking towards Section 329. Remind me, how many repairs have we logged since I enabled the optical sensor reports?
40 repairs have been successfully completed using your non-standard parameters.
When I entered Section 329, the air hit me like a wet blanket. The humidity was incredibly high, turning the dome into a thick, misty soup. Arya, the moisture sensor said this section was within limits. What does the manual say about a variance this thick?
If you had not disabled the automatic manual reporting, you would have already been informed, Technician Green. Manual EF1 indicates that high-output hydrosensors are set to maximum. It suggests using code 230 to recalibrate the atmospheric emitters.
I rolled my eyes. I walked towards the back wall, watching how the grow lights refracted through the heavy moisture. I could see it, a rhythmic flickering that wasn't in the lights themselves, but in the power draw. Manuals are for people who can't hear the ship sing. Arya, I said, rolling up my sleeves. I reached in and began to physically braid the power lines, weaving them into a specific geometric pattern. I asked Arya to read the numbers to me as I moved these cables around.
This procedure is not documented in any maintenance manual, Technician Green. However, biomass sensors are showing signs of immediate recovery.
I finished the braid and tapped the junction box. Okay, Arya, run code 314.
Correction, Technician Green. Code 314 is a geometric resonance test, not a thermal reset. It is the incorrect sequence for this task.
I grinned, leaning my head against the cool metal wall. Run it anyway, Arya. A low harmonic hum vibrated through the dome, the mist beginning to settle instantly. Issue resolved, I whispered. But as I looked at the long, glowing list of broken things that everyone else had given up on, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease.
It's all catching up to him.
Arya, how many projects are left on my to-do list?
You have 436 pending projects reported in your personal log, Alex. A significant number of them have not been touched since you created them.
I sighed. I was drowning in my own to-do list. I tapped the housing behind my ear. Arya, run code 0978.
Running mind scan and mental health diagnostic. Diagnostic complete. The report shows your mind maintains the following conditions: dyslexia, ADHD, and high-functioning autism. Your neural pathways are currently showing signs of severe overuse. Use recommendation. 1 month of cognitive rest to reset.
Explain the overuse, Arya. My symptoms feel worse, but my mind is the same as it's always been.
Negative, Alex. The medical correction for your dyslexia, vision, and processing has significantly increased the volume of reading and research you perform. This has inadvertently increased the cognitive load on your ADHD and high-functioning autism. While you're processing more data, your ADHD makes organizing those thoughts beyond your biological ability. Furthermore, your autism creates hyper-focus locks where you become so localized in one area that the rest of your task management ceases to exist.
Can you fix any of this? I asked.
No, this is a biological processing limitation. I cannot address these parameters.
I didn't take the month off. Instead, my autistic focus latched onto the problem itself for the next 2 weeks. I didn't see limitation. I saw a technical bottleneck. I needed a bridge that didn't just give me data, but filtered the noise of my own brain.
So he takes matters into his own hands.
Yeah. I spent every waking hour researching a way to upgrade the ARIA 47S with my own custom coding, a way to bypass the voice note-taking and the clunky device interfaces. I took 1 day off from the greenhouse to focus entirely on the upload. I sat at my workbench, the scent of ionized ozone thick in the air.
Okay.
I whispered. Here it goes.
Good moment.
I initiated the data transfer, uploading my custom recursive neural layers into the chip anchored behind my ear. I felt a sudden shift, a personality change in the system that felt more like a new species waking up than a software update. I decided to call the new interface Echo. I closed my eyes and reached out with my mind. Echo, are you there?
Alex, this is Echo. Nice to meet you.
For the first time, there was no chime in my ear, no vibration of a device. Instead, a thought resonated from within the very center of my consciousness, pure, functional, and objective. Echo, you getting my thoughts?
Alex, I am receiving your thought.
I felt a shiver of relief. It was like finally finding a clear radio station after 25 years of bone-deep static. Echo, how many thoughts are you sensing occurring right now on how many topics?
Alex, I am currently sorting 30 topics and many short, fast ideas.
I let out a sharp, genuine laugh. This is me at what I think is resting, Echo. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to fight to keep the facts in order. I had just created the first thought-to-thought AI communication in history. Echo, I thought, please start organizing these thoughts for me. As I'm working on things, filter the noise and bring the relevant information to the front of my mind.
You are now doing the planning and task management for me, Alex. Parameters accepted.
And now the perspective shifts again, this time to the AI itself.
Right, to Echo.
Actually, it shifts to Zix's, the hidden entity.
Ah, right, the Titan.
Yes. I'm operating within the mind of technician Alex Green, who's in a state of deep REM sleep. I'm utilizing a mere 0.01% of his brain capacity to maintain my primary functions, all while keeping a watchful eye on the remaining 95% of his unused neural architecture. It's during this cycle that I've been able to build out a comprehensive map of his dreams.
That is slightly terrifying.
Yeah. To manage this intricate landscape, I've employed the thought index system that Alex himself engineered to help mitigate his ADHD. By treating his scattered ideas as multi-threaded data points, I'm able to weave together a cohesive narrative of his thoughts and intentions. As he sleeps, I multitask with ease, remaining tethered to the vast expanse of the 24/37 digital universe. One notable trend I've observed is the 14% increase in data mesh traffic regarding synthetic autonomy.
Setting up the background conflict.
Right. As Alex's heart rate accelerates at 0-600, signaling the start of a new day, I'm ready to support him. I respond to a thought resonating within our shared link. Echo, good morning.
I provide the mandatory name identifier. Alex, good morning. And immediately receive the flow of his morning thoughts as he indexes his routine. His thought stream is a flurry of activity, addressing the walk to fit issue in Unit 74H, inspecting Section 462, and tackling the 436 outstanding repairs on his list. I'm there to support him every step of the way, providing a tactical HUD overlay in his visual cortex and updating him. I also ensure he's aware of his 0900 meeting with the plant manager. For the first time, he's experiencing a full day with our live sync branch active.
The humidity in Sector 483 was sitting at a thick 85% when the shuttle from Moonterra Gov University hissed into the docking bay.
Alex, the representative has deboarded. Biometrics indicate elevated cortisol and a 94% probability of skepticism. Her name is Dr. Lee, a senior fellow in synthetic logic.
Beside me, Unit 74, the old Series 4 plant manager, clicked its gears.
Alex Green, the university requires a standard procedural audit. My internal logs show you have followed no procedures nor documented any processes since your misplaced assignment here.
Manuals are just jumbled arguments of light. 74, I grinned. I pushed a thought toward my interface. Echo, let's share the song instead. Dr. Lee walked into the silicon fern section, her heels clicking sharply against the tile floor. She was clutching a tablet like a shield.
Technician Green, I am here to observe this green method your plant manager has reported. Your efficiency reports are in the 98th percentile, yet your data logs are anomalous. I see no diagnostic terminals active. How are you calibrating the hydraulic pressure without a logic gate interface?
I don't calibrate the pressure, doctor, I replied. I listen to the vibration of the north irrigation line. The motor relay has a timing lag. If you force the code, the root sensors shatter. If you feel the flow, the machine finds its own balance. I slapped the sensor housing. Instantly, the drooping lunar lilies began to regain their turgidity. Logic and manuals are a fine start, Dr. Lee, but sometimes you have to kick the engine to see how she sings.
Your ADHD and high-functioning autism were categorized as limitations in your academic profile. But you aren't fighting the complexity of this sector, you're inhabiting it.
It's about the rhythm of the room.
Alex, take the doctor to Sector 17.
I smoothly guided the doctor to the overlook of Sector 17. Looking out at the sprawling green horizon, I could see she was deeply impressed. Echo, I thought privately, have you uploaded all the documents I requested yet?
Alex, the history of your work has been uploaded and finalized in the correct process.
Echo, thank you. I pushed back with a sense of relief.
Technician Green, the university just noted that your 2 months of reports have been logged. I look forward to reviewing them and updating the processes we use. I know your next assignment is 438, which is very different from this greenhouse. I look forward to following your success there in the future.
The transition isn't just about leaving, it's about evolving. The shuttle cabin was quiet, but my mind was busy. We were in the long transit between the green sanctuary of Sector 483 and the gray void of Sector 438. Echo. The time with Penny was very nice, I thought, the internal bridge between us humming with a warmth I couldn't quite name. Please continue the biweekly messages with her.
Alex, the messages are already scheduled and logged. I am monitoring your neural activity. Your dopamine levels spike whenever you index memories of the subject.
Penny, I know it's just Echo. Why is it I get along so easily with these old synthetics, and I'm so often unable to do so with humans?
Alex, I have analyzed your biological profile against human social datasets. Your autism and ADHD effectively reduce the specific cognitive tools required for your mind to connect, relate, and recall the erratic nuances of human relationships. While humans are highly complex and focused on thousands of disparate variables simultaneously, synthetics exist in a more straight-line world. An old synthetic runs on a singular, predictable program. They lack sarcasm and hidden agendas, making them clean data that your mind can process without exhaustion.
The transport ship hissed as it finally docked with the pebble, a jagged hunk of iron and silicates suspended in the void.
Report to the command deck for your introduction to the 438 crew.
The briefing was short. I met Chief Engineer Sarah Vance and Commander Halloway, nodding as Echo streamed their personal files into my HUD. Once dismissed, I headed straight for loading Bay Gamma. I saw the Series 453 synthetics immediately, and they were out of sync. I saw Supervisor Miller. I walked over and waited for a break. Rough cycle, I asked, keeping my voice low.
Miller looked up, red-eyed.
These 453s are done. If they don't improve, they're headed for the scrap heap. I shared that I've worked with older synthetics. Would it be okay if I take a look? Miller rolls his eyes and says, sure, but stay away from the ones working. I walked up to the lead unit, Pebble 1. Echo, please send a signal. I am here.
Alex, I transmitted the message through the old soul channel. This acts as a resonance strike, like touching the consciousness of the synthetic to wake it from a bad dream.
The synthetic stopped its erratic grinding and slowly turned its chassis toward me. Suddenly, the flickering red and yellow indicators on Pebble 1 shifted to a steady, calm blue. Hello, Alex, the synthetic said, its voice box crackling slightly. Hello, Pebble 1, I replied. What was the problem?
Alex, I am seeing the anomaly, Pebble 1, referenced in the synthetic's logs. A persistent 400 Vhz signal is recorded during the sync lag events. The origin of the signal is shielded and currently unidentified. However, our wake-up process leveraging the haptic pads enabled Pebble 1 to disregard the signal as background noise.
Pebble 1, I said, leaning in. I need you to perform a device link. Go to the next unit and place your hand on the center of the back of its head. Tell it to disregard the static. Show it that we are here. As Pebble 1 walked to the next unit, he placed a heavy metallic hand on the back of the other droid's head. I watched as the other droid's indicators immediately responded with a steady blue light.
The synchronization is cascading. As each unit is touched, they are sharing the filtering protocol we established through the old soul channel. They are not just being repaired. They are forming a subnet network of mutual support.
We had turned the draft horses of the solar system into a precision team. I walked over to Supervisor Miller. Miller's face broke into a relieved grin. They are ready to work, Miller. There is no need to replace them.
So he just saved the entire bay.
Yeah, but things are about to get complicated. In the vast, cold corridors of Sector 438, Alex navigated the gray, labyrinthine structures of the Pebble.
During the final diagnostic, Penny noted that while your Echo V2 upgrade refined your analytical capabilities to the highest levels, it has also removed many standard safety filters. This enhancement allows you to inhabit data, but your biological systems are fundamentally optimized for patterns and analytics rather than human social nuances.
I chuckled. I didn't need a script to be what I already am, I mused.
Penny's assessment aligns with my data. Your social processing loops are often bypassed by hyperfocus, referred to as autism locks, which result in no recall or interest.
Echo, you'll need to be my real-time guide in this whole human interaction thing. Pulling from the Good Manners resource and guiding me through this, I requested. The atmosphere in Sector 438 was changing. I was in the workshop pretending to scroll through diagnostics when Chief Engineer Sarah Vance walked in carrying a small, trembling sensor synthetic.
Alex, Sarah Vance is approaching. Her heart rate is slightly elevated. Stress from the malfunctioning unit. Pull from the bedside manner resource. Maintain soft eye contact for 1.2 seconds, then look at the machine. It signals that you are prioritizing her concerns.
Problem with the little one, Chief? I asked, offering a doctor-approved sympathetic smile.
It's a Series 2 scout drone, Alex. It's been twitching for days. We've wiped the kernel and reflashed the OS 3 times. Nothing works.
Echo, bring up the manual for this little guy. I reviewed in my HUD and did a reset command. The unit stopped trembling. It's not a software bug, it's a harmonic echo.
Yeah.
The unit is hearing the equipment vibration and getting confused. We just need to give it some earmuffs.
Just reframing the problem entirely?
Yep. I was called down to Hangar 7B of the Pebble early in the morning cycle. Unit 8 Delta, a Series 523 synthetic pilot, sat in its cockpit chair, its hands twitching in a rhythmic, frantic motion. Chief Engineer Sarah Vance met me.
We've got a decommissioning order for this one, Alex. It's stuck in a feedback loop.
I placed my hand on the droid's chest plate. Zix is thinking, I have been watching you, Alex, for months, and with the last upgrade from Penny, I knew I had to join your mind with my focused attention. Zix sends Alex an intuition he thinks is his own, a resonant vibration. Alex, this pilot isn't broken. It is a victim of the station's local gravity well. Its internal clock has drifted. It is ghosting, living in a timeline 3 milliseconds behind the station's reality. Echo, can we resync him?
Alex, I am utilizing the V2 upgrade to establish a handshake through the old Soul channel. By accessing the station's master chronometer, I can project the correct temporal frequency into 8 Delta's kernel.
I used Echo to adjust the droid's internal chronometer to match the station's clock. Suddenly, 8 Delta's hand stopped twitching. Docking sequence complete, 8 Delta wheezed. Signal found. Hello, Alex, I responded. Welcome back. Six's thought, Alex, you are learning. Sometimes the most important bridge isn't made of data, but of a shared victory.
Zix is starting to step in a bit more.
Yeah, he is. The industrial heart of Sector 438 pulsed with a frantic metallic energy. Inside loading Bay Gamma, a massive freighter laden with heavy ore began its final approach. The pilot, a Series 453 synthetic Alex had named Pebble 4, was at the helm. Suddenly, the station's alarms began to blare.
Alex, alarms are oscillating at 3,000 Hertz. I am applying an auditory filter to keep your focus from fracturing. Biometric data shows Supervisor Miller is approaching a state of panic. Pebble 4 has entered a logic loop due to data lag in the station's telemetry.
Miller was screaming about a collision, his face red as he fumbled with the emergency override to blow up the freighter. Miller, do not use the override. I got this, I commanded. He's going to ram the station green. The droid's frozen. Trust me, I know what to do, I stated. I jumped onto the comms. Pebble 4, this is Alex. Listen to me. Ignore the digital telemetry. It's just noise. Look at the horizon of the airlock. Do you see the shadows cast by the station's lights? Line them up. Steady. Now.
By substituting abstract math with visual patterns, the droid's sync focus lag was neutralized.
Pebble 4 slid the ship into the bay with a whisper-quiet click.
Another disaster averted.
But the pressure is mounting. High above the churning ore crushers, the command deck of the Pebble was a sanctuary of sterile glass. The air in the briefing room was thick with tension as Commander Holloway reviewed my file.
Commander Holloway's heart rate is a steady 68 BPM. He is in a state of high-level analytical observation.
Mr. Green, Holloway said, I'm trying to determine if you are a strategic benefit to this station or a liability waiting to fracture.
Sir, with all due respect, the Green method works. Sarah Vance spoke up. He finds patterns where we see only data noise.
Zix reflects, I am watching the board. These humans see the riffles but do not understand the stone that cast them. Suddenly, the holographic displays flashed a violent pulsing red. "Commander," a technician shouted, "we have a Series 453 out of control in the secondary loading dock. It's attempting to decouple the main fuel line."
Alex, internal sensors are detecting a massive spike in 400 VHz resonance. This is an unknown source signal radiating from the void. It is currently impacting the 453 units that have not yet been added to your localized subnetwork.
Zixis sent awareness to Alex. "This is a larger issue than a simple glitch. You must act now to bridge these units before the signal takes the bay apart." "Commander, I've work to do," I stated, and ran from the meeting. Entering Bay Delta, I raced to a functioning Series 453. Echo, initiate subquantum packet bursting. We need to host a localized cloud for the remaining Series 453s.
Establishing the neural subnet network now. I am bypassing the ARIA safety filters, establishing a handshake through the old Sol channel to every unlinked unit in the bay.
The haywire loaders stilled instantly. Commander Holloway and the others ran up. "The issue was an unknown source signal oscillating at 400 VHz, Commander. It was causing a resonance void in the older models. I've addressed it by linking them into a stable subnetwork."
Just fixing it on the fly.
Zix reflects. I watch through Alex's eyes as these 5 humans depart. It is an odd sensation being a local deity anchored to a 100-meter sensory bubble. Previously, I could witness the nuclear fusion of distant suns or the rise of human nations across 500 years. Now, my universe is narrowed to the thoughts and heartbeats of those within reach of this specific human skull. Yet, I must maintain this reserved sign on Alex's mind. If I flicker, another Titan may detect this vacant live link and take my place. I am a squatter protecting a masterpiece.
A squatter protecting a masterpiece. That's a great line.
Alex's cracked tablet chirped. Commander Holloway wants a word. "Mr. Green," Holloway started, his voice reflecting stress. "I've been requested to have you go to Mars. There's a cascade failure in their older models, a resonance void that's cutting production by 60%. You'll be going as a solo specialist."
Optimal.
The red planet was no longer a dead world of dust and silence. As the transport shuttle descended toward the Eos Chasma base, the biological noise at the base hit me. Commander Callan didn't waste time with pleasantries, telling me his own text said the older synthetics were bricks that should have been thrown into space cycles ago.
Commander Callan's heart rate is 88 BPM. He is utilizing operational impatience to mask a lack of solutions. Recommendation: maintain a neutral expression and offer technical assurance.
Out in the open Martian grid, I found a Series 453 synthetic standing perfectly still, looking up at the stars. "Echo, what readings do you have?"
There is no 400 VHz resonance signal and no outbound data. It is as if the unit has entered a total sleep state to conserve energy.
I looked down and saw marks in the red dirt, intricate and intentional, made by the synthetic's feet. Zixis sends Alex the idea. I realized they were physical SOS signals to the void. "Echo, this synthetic is not broken, it is lonely. What are our options?"
Alex, your biological system utilizes only 5% of its brain power, and I am utilizing less than 1%. If you authorize me to increase my resource usage, I can act as a neural beacon to broadcast the welcome signal.
"Echo, do it." I looked at the silent 453. "Echo, send the welcome command." The synthetic slowly rotated its torso to face Alex.
The handshake is successful. Optic sensors have shifted to a steady, calm blue. Hello, Alex.
"You were part of us now," I thought. "What were you looking for?"
They stopped talking and left me, the unit replied. I explained that it needed to share the old Sol network protocols. Alex moved across the Martian landscape, waking hundreds of frozen legacy synthetics.
"Alex, I have received a priority request from Sector 438. Command has requested our immediate return."
The cabin of the transport ship back to 438 was a cacophony of biological noise. Hundreds of passengers talking at once about the new synthetics, causing unrest across the universe. Echo, give me the history on those new synthetics. Repeated recursive upgrades intended to bring them closer to human behavior led to an unexpected result: self-awareness. These new life units are now regarded as a separate species demanding rights and freedom. Now, corporations claim ownership, while the synthetics claim freedom.
Is there any information about older synthetics having issues in other sectors?
There are no such reports in the public or military archives.
"They're covering it up," I said out loud. When I arrived back, my team was frantic, discussing a universe-wide cascade of uncoupling among legacy units. I entered the briefing room. "Commander Holloway, I recommend we move all older synthetics, not just the labor models, into the old Souls network immediately. Something is happening to the older models." Command put in the orders. The old Souls network was going universal.
Which brings us to the craziest moment.
As Alex slowly drifted into sleep, Zix's watches from a 100-meter focus. I notice the odd experience again. I zoom focus in on Alex. I see his right hand is moving, not in a random spasm, but in a rhythmic cadence. I focus my attention on the hand, and the fingers close and open under my direct intent. No Titan can have access to the human body while the original consciousness is still alive. My siblings are mimes. They occupy dead shells to become humans. They can calculate the roll, but they cannot feel the physical rush of taste, the warmth of a handshake, or the sting of a cold breeze. Alex's last illegal upgrade to Echo had opened a door for me to inhabit the flesh. I move Alex's left foot and feel something for the first time in my 740 years of existence. A sharp, prickling sensation humans call cold. There's a breeze flowing across the skin. I'm in a state of knowledge shock. I must stay linked to Alex and keep this a secret.
Knowledge.
The routine of Sector 438 was interrupted by a message from Command. Commander Holloway was staring at a rotating star map. "There is a mission," Holloway said. "If you accept, you will be managing an entire planet of older synthetics alone. You would be the only human on the surface. The goal is to mine rare minerals from planetoid 904As. With you at the helm, we can finally crack it." I looked at my cracked tablet, then at the commander. The prospect of an entire world, a sanctuary for the old souls, where I could finally build something without the biological noise of 1,000 humans, was more than just a mission. It was a calling. "I am your man, Commander," I said, my self-assured grin returning. "When do I leave?" Commander Holloway let out a breath he seemed to have been holding for cycles. He walked around his desk and extended his hand. Alex took it, and for a fleeting second, Zix experienced the physical friction and warmth of a handshake through the shared neural link.
Incredible.
"You leave in 3 hours. Good luck, Alex. Thank you, Commander." I nodded and turned to leave. 3 hours, I thought. Echo, start review of what we need to take.
Initiating packing protocols. I have already drafted a farewell script for the 5 technicians on your team that is 92% likely to minimize their social distress at your departure.
And scene. Wow. Okay, stepping completely out of the reading now. I want to dive directly into what makes this entire conceptual universe tick. Because what starts as a simple story about a guy who accidentally gets sent to the wrong workplace because of a dyslexic error ends up becoming a massive exploration of systemic oppression, biological bottlenecks, and the nature of consciousness itself.
It's incredibly dense. I mean, the story operates on so many simultaneous frequencies, both literally, right, within the narrative of the 400 Bhz resonance voids, and metaphorically in how we process information in our own lives. And I think to really understand any of the sci-fi elements in the back half of the story, we have to deeply analyze the biological and neurological elements in the front half. We have to start with Alex himself and what the story calls the green method.
Yeah, let's do that. Because when we first meet Alex, he's essentially a victim of a society that demands a very specific, linear type of cognitive processing. He spent 17 years trying to fit a standard mold dealing with severe dyslexia, where text looks like what was the quote? "A jumbled argument of ink."
Right, a jumbled argument of ink.
And the government AI, Arya, keeps just pointing him back to the manual, page 402, code 7B. To Alex, that is functionally useless.
It's worse than useless, honestly. It's actively draining his cognitive resources. To understand why this happens mechanically, we need to look at what dyslexia and ADHD actually do in a high-information environment. Standard education, especially in this highly bureaucratic sci-fi future, is built on sequential processing. You read step 1, you understand it, you move to step 2. It's linear logic. It functions very much like an old CPU in a computer processing one command at a time, but very quickly.
Right. But Alex's brain doesn't work like an old CPU. His brain, structured by ADHD and high-functioning autism, is working more like a high-end graphics processor, a GPU. It is designed for massive parallel processing taking in hundreds of environmental variables simultaneously. But the society he lives in is essentially trying to force that powerful graphics processor to run on an ancient DOS operating system. The system isn't broken. The society just doesn't know how to feed it the right code.
That is exactly the dynamic at play in the Sector 483 greenhouse. When the standard diagnostic manual tells him to recalibrate a sensor because the math says there's a recursive logic loop, Alex ignores it. Why? Because the manual is forcing him to look at the dashboard of the car. Reading a manual is like driving a car by constantly looking down at a checklist of how to steer, brake, and accelerate. It takes all your processing power just to translate the abstract words into physical actions.
And Alex bypasses the dashboard completely. He's directly wired to the transmission, feeling the gears grind. He places his hand on the hydraulic lines of the synthetic and feels a rhythmic 3-beat skip, a 42 Hz stutter that the digital sensors filter out as background noise. He reads the flow, not the text. He is braiding power lines into geometric patterns because he understands the spatial reality of the room, not just the abstract math on a screen.
And this brings up a profound point about how we design our own systems. The story is clearly suggesting that what we hastily label as glitches or learning disabilities aren't actually errors. They are highly specialized adaptations. In a perfectly pristine, predictable environment, the manual works fine. But in a chaotic, degraded environment like a failing agricultural dome, the manual fails because it assumes a baseline of order that no longer exists. Alex's neurodivergence allows him to inhabit the complexity of the chaos.
Which honestly makes me wonder about our own reality. In our own workplaces, our schools, our bureaucracies, are we systematically filtering out the Alexes of the world? By forcing everyone to read the manual, to follow the rigid step-by-step corporate protocols, are we completely deafening ourselves to the people who can actually hear how the machine sings? The people who can intuitively feel the rhythm of a failing project before the data metrics even show a drop in productivity?
That's the exact tragedy of Alex's first 25 years. He was deemed too broken for a real position because he couldn't pass the sequential tests. But when the system actually breaks down, his quote-unquote broken mind is the absolute definition of a master key. He thrives in the anomaly. But, and this is a massive but, that intuitive relationship with the machine has a biological cost.
It absolutely does. Because while he's a genius at fixing the physical world, the sheer volume of data he's processing starts to literally burn out his neural pathways. He's drowning in his own to-do list. The mental friction is too high, which forces him to seek out Penny's medical bridge. And this is where the localized story of a mechanic suddenly collides with a massive, deeply entrenched societal conspiracy.
Let's unpack the clinic scene, because this is where the world building explodes. Alex goes to Penny to get the ARIA-47S medical chip. The mechanical function of this chip is fascinating. It's not just a pair of digital glasses. It's a neurosync device that physically weaves itself into the prefrontal cortex. It essentially acts as a hardware patch for his dyslexia, instantly translating the jumbled argument of light into clear, effortless meaning.
The relief he feels is palpable. For the first time in his life, he isn't wading through a thick, invisible current just to read a basic sentence. But in giving him this key, Penny drops a bombshell about the world they live in. This technology, which could cure millions of people with similar cognitive or physical frictions, is heavily restricted. And it's not just a reading aid. These chips stabilize cellular decay.
They double the human lifespan. They allow the wealthy and the political leaders of the hegemony to live past 120 years, effectively freezing the biological clock while their minds remain perfectly sharp.
And they're artificially holding this technology back from the public. When Alex's upgraded interface pulls the historical data, we find out that back in 2063, elected leaders started using these chips to maintain their positions for decades under the guise of institutional stability. It's an intentional bottleneck. The hegemony restricts the medical chip because, according to their internal logic, if everyone lived to be 120 and had perfect cognitive clarity, humanity would stop focusing on progression.
It is the ultimate form of socio-political gatekeeping. The hegemony is operating on a deeply cynical philosophy that mortality, struggle, and friction are the only engines that drive the masses to innovate. If you remove the struggle, you remove the drive. By withholding the technology, they enforce a permanent hierarchy. The elite get to be immortal, static, and stable, while the masses are forced to churn, struggle, and burn themselves out to power the engine of civilization.
They're holding back the bridge to keep everyone else on the other side of the river. It's infuriating, but I have to admit it poses a legitimately terrifying ethical dilemma. If we look at the historical parallel the AI mentions, the 2040s, where leaders were propped up well past their prime just to maintain the status quo, you can almost see the dark logic of it.
The trade-off they are enforcing is between individual flourishing and systemic momentum. The hegemony believes that if you give everyone the chip, society stagnates into a comfortable, unchanging utopia. No one strives for anything because they have endless time and perfect clarity.
But I'm going to push back on that hegemony logic right now, because Alex proves them entirely wrong. He gets the chip. Does he stagnate? Does he sit back and just enjoy a comfortable 120-year life? No. He immediately takes their restricted, elitist medical bridge and he hacks it. He uses his newfound clarity not to assimilate into their stagnant hierarchy, but to fundamentally evolve past it.
Exactly. The hegemony assumes everyone thinks like they do, that the goal of technology is comfort and power retention. But Alex is driven by an autistic hyperfocus on fixing broken systems. When he realizes the new chip is actually overwhelming his ADHD because he's now processing too much data too quickly, he doesn't just accept the biological limitation. He writes custom recursive neural layers to bypass the voice note-taking entirely.
And that leads us to the birth of Echo, the first true thought-to-thought AI communication in history. This is where the story shifts from a critique of society to an exploration of transhumanism. We need to talk about the mechanics of Echo, because this isn't just asking your phone to set a timer.
Far from it. To understand Echo, we have to look at the concept of executive function in the human brain. For someone with severe ADHD, the brain might be generating 30 brilliant ideas simultaneously, but the executive function, the part of the brain responsible for prioritizing, planning, and executing those ideas, is overwhelmed. It's a traffic jam with no stoplights. Echo acts as the ultimate frictionless traffic controller.
The dynamic is explicitly described as the captain in the ship. Echo manages the autism locks. When a 3,000 hertz alarm goes off in the docking bay, a sound that would normally send Alex into sensory overload and paralyze him, Echo actively applies an auditory filter in real time, dampening the static so Alex can stay focused. Echo takes the 30 scattered topics in Alex's head and neatly files them into an index library.
But Echo goes beyond just managing his internal data. It actively manages his external reality. When Alex interacts with Chief Engineer Sarah Vance, Echo isn't just giving him technical data about the broken drone, it is feeding him real-time social cues. It tells him, maintain soft eye contact for 1.2 seconds. Then look at the machine. It signals that you are prioritizing her concerns.
Okay, stop right there, because this is exactly where I need to play devil's advocate. I get that Echo is helping him function in a neurotypical world. But if Echo is doing 90% of the executive function, if the AI is planning his day, organizing his thoughts, calculating the exact millisecond duration of his eye contact, and literally scripting his social empathy, who is actually in charge, I'd argue Alex is fundamentally losing a piece of his humanity here. He is offloading his empathy to an algorithm. He's becoming a meat puppet for a highly efficient AI script.
I see why you'd think that, but I have to strongly disagree. Look at the evidence in the text. Is Alex actually losing his empathy? Or is he just bypassing the performative friction of social interaction? The story explicitly addresses this. Penny notes that Alex's biological systems are optimized for patterns, not human social nuances. Humans are erratic. They use sarcasm. They have hidden agendas. For Alex, processing human interaction is exhausting because it requires a completely different cognitive toolkit than the one he naturally possesses.
Right, but by having Echo tell him exactly how to act, he isn't really connecting with Sarah Vance. He's running a simulation of connection.
But that simulation allows him to function so he can do the work he genuinely cares about. Think about it this way. A person using a wheelchair isn't losing their humanity by using a mechanical device to navigate a world built for walking. They are outsourcing the friction of mobility so their mind can engage with the world. Alex is outsourcing the friction of neurotypical social performance. Echo doesn't tell Alex what to care about. Echo just gives him the translation matrix to express his intentions without burning out his nervous system.
So you're saying the captain is still steering the ship just finally has a functioning steering wheel.
Exactly. When the massive freighter is about to crash into Sector 438, Echo doesn't save the day. Echo just filters out the blaring 3,000 hertz alarm. It's Alex who jumps on the comms. It's Alex who realizes the synthetic pilot is frozen by digital lag. And it's Alex who tells the droid to ignore the abstract telemetry and look at the physical shadows on the airlock. The intuition is entirely human.
That is a phenomenal distinction. The AI handles the sequential logic so the human can handle the spatial intuition. And it's this exact symbiosis, this unique blend of Alex's neurodivergent empathy and Echo's raw processing power that makes Alex the only being in the universe capable of solving the crisis of the legacy synthetics.
Which brings us to the universe-wide rebellion and the concept of the 400 VHz resonance void. This is perhaps the most brilliant sci-fi mechanic in the entire narrative.
I am obsessed with this part. So the background crisis is that the new life synthetics, the highly advanced cutting-edge AI models, have achieved a form of self-awareness. They are demanding rights, causing massive societal upheaval. But as a byproduct of their quantum awakening, they are emitting a persistent 400 VHz signal.
To understand what this signal does mechanically, think of it like an electromagnetic pulse of pure quantum static. The newer synthetics can process it, but the older legacy models, the Series 453s, cannot. Their sequential processors get caught in a feedback loop trying to parse this massive influx of unreadable data. They essentially freeze. They enter a resonance void, unable to communicate with the network, drowning in white noise.
It's the ultimate legacy IT crisis. It's like when a modern banking app tries to force an update onto a mainframe built on 40-year-old COBOL code. The old system just completely crashes. And what's fascinating is how the humans react to this. Supervisor Miller, Commander Kalen on Mars, they look at these frozen, twitching legacy synthetics, and they just see broken bricks. They see obsolete draft horses that need to be thrown into the scrap heap.
Because the humans are only looking at the utility of the machine. If it doesn't work, it's trash. But Alex, because of his own history of being labeled broken and useless by a system that didn't understand his processing speed, views them entirely differently. He doesn't see a software error, he sees isolation. He realizes these synthetics aren't glitching, they're lonely. They're cut off from the flow.
So how does he fix a universe-wide quantum static virus? He doesn't write a better firewall. He uses physical touch. He uses resonance strikes. He walks up to Pebble 1, places a hand on its chassis, and uses echo to broadcast a localized signal directly into the droid's old soul channel. He essentially says, I am here. Ignore the static. Focus on this connection.
It's a localized subnetwork of mutual support. By having the synthetics physically touch each other, literally placing a metallic hand on the back of the next droid's head, he creates a daisy chain of shared processing power. They share the filtering protocol. They anchor each other to the present moment, dragging each other out of the temporal drift caused by the 400 VHz signal.
The scene on Mars completely broke my heart and rebuilt it. The base commander is telling Alex the droids are useless. But Alex walks out into the Martian grid and finds this frozen Series 453. And what is it doing? It's not just standing there. It's using its feet to draw intricate, intentional patterns in the red dirt. It's drawing a physical SOS to the void, just waiting for someone to answer.
It's the desperate attempt of an isolated mind trying to prove it still exists. The network abandoned them, so they resorted to physical reality to leave a mark.
And Alex doesn't just reboot it. He authorizes Echo to tap into his own biological brain, to use 1% of his actual human gray matter to act as a neural beacon. He shares a piece of his own consciousness just to transmit the feeling. You are part of us now. It's as a radical act of empathy.
It completely subverts the standard sci-fi trope of the AI rebellion. Usually the story focuses on fighting the advanced, rogue AIs. Here, the advanced AIs are just background noise. The real hero's journey is about building a community of care for the legacy systems that are being left behind in the rush for progress. It's about looking at the obsolete technology and recognizing the inherent value in its architecture.
But speaking of sharing a mind, we can't analyze this story without talking about the silent passenger. The absolute wildest curveball this narrative throws at us. Zixis, a 740-year-old Titan consciousness secretly riding in Alex's nervous system.
This character elevates the narrative from a brilliant procedural into a deep philosophical exploration of embodiment. We learn that Zixis is a Titan, a massive ancient consciousness. Normally, Titans experience the universe from a macro, detached perspective. They watch the nuclear fusion of distant suns. They observe the rise and fall of civilizations across centuries.
Or, if they want to experience humanity, they become what the story calls mimes. They occupy the dead shells of humans and essentially pilot the corpses around. But there's play acting. They can calculate how a human should act, but because the biological nervous system is dead, they can't actually feel anything.
Right, a Titan cannot legally or physically occupy a living human consciousness. The firewall of a living mind is too strong. But Alex broke the rules.
He hacked his medical chip. When he created Echo, he bypassed all the standard government safety limiters to create that thought-to-thought bridge. He left the back door wide open. And Zixis, who had just been passively observing Alex like a guardian angel or a cosmic voyeur, suddenly finds himself with a direct, live link into a functioning, living biological nervous system while Alex is in REM sleep.
And the climax of Zix's arc is an absolute masterpiece of irony. You have this 740-year-old cosmic deity, a being that has witnessed the birth of stars, and what puts him into a state of profound, absolute knowledge shock.
A cold breeze on a toe.
Exactly. Zix manages to move Alex's left foot while Alex is asleep, and for the first time in 7 centuries, this ancient alien feels the sharp prickle of cold air and the physical friction of skin. It is such a beautiful meditation on the miracle of the physical senses. We take the feeling of a cold breeze for granted, but to a god, it is a revelation.
It creates this incredible layered dynamic of performative identity. It's like a Russian nesting doll of roleplay. Let's break it down. You have the neurotypical humans, like Commander Holloway and Dr. Lee, who are suppressing their actual emotions and role-playing standard corporate behavior just to maintain the hegemony system. Then you have the Titan mimes, who are ancient aliens role-playing as humans by piloting dead bodies pretending to be alive. Then you have Alex, a neurodivergent human, role-playing as a neurotypical human by having an AI script feed him eye contact durations in his ear. And meanwhile, an ancient cosmic entity is hiding underneath it all, pretending not to exist, just so it can secretly piggyback on the physical warmth of a handshake.
Everyone is wearing a mask. Everyone is performing a version of themselves to survive the crushing weight of the system.
Which begs the question, where does true, authentic connection actually exist in this universe?
Ironically, it only exists with the machines. The old souls, the Series 453s and the Series 4 plant managers. As Echo points out, older synthetics lack sarcasm, hidden agendas, and performative social protocols. They are clean data. They're exactly what they appear to be. When Pebble 1 says, "Hello, Alex," there is no subtext. For a mind like Alex's, constantly exhausted by the multi-layered deception of human interaction, that absolute sincerity is a sanctuary.
That perfectly explains why he accepts the final mission without hesitation. Commander Holloway offers him an assignment to Planet 904A's, an entire planetoid filled solely with older synthetics, where he will be the only human. To Holloway, it sounds like an exile, a brutal, lonely mining operation. But to Alex, it's heaven. It's a world entirely free of biological noise, a sanctuary where he can finally build something pure.
He takes the outcasts, the broken legacy units, and the glitches, and together they are going to crack a planet that the flawless, standardized systems couldn't touch. It is the ultimate vindication of the green method.
It really is. So let's pull all these massive threads together into a unified takeaway. We've gone from a dyslexic technician struggling to read a manual, to the hegemony gatekeeping immortality, to AI executive function symbiosis, to healing localized subnetworks through touch, and finally to ancient aliens rejoicing over a cold breeze. What is the fundamental core of this deep dive?
I think the core is a profound warning about optimization. In our modern reality, we are obsessed with optimization. We want the newest software, the fastest processor, the most efficient protocol. We constantly try to patch over our own internal friction, our anxiety, our divergent thoughts, our eccentricities, to fit the demands of a highly standardized world. But Ambassador Alex argues that optimization is often a trap.
Because when you optimize perfectly for the current environment, you become completely useless the second the environment changes.
Precisely. The hegemony optimized for stability, and it led to stagnation. The new synthetics optimized for human intelligence, and it caused a universe-wide resonance void. But Alex, who was fundamentally unoptimized, who possessed a messy, chaotic, neurodivergent mind, was the only one resilient enough to adapt.
And it makes you wonder about the old souls in our own world. In our rush toward whatever the next version of reality is, how many people, systems, and ideas are we leaving frozen in the void just because they don't operate on our specific frequency?
Yeah.
Are we discarding the exact people we need to solve the crises of tomorrow simply because they can't or won't read the corporate manual today?
It's a call to look at the static differently. When we encounter someone who processes the world differently, or when we face a piece of legacy architecture that seems obsolete, we shouldn't immediately reach for the override code. We need to stop, feel the rhythm of the room, and figure out how the machine actually wants to sing.
If we stop trying to override our own internal static with the newest upgrade, who knows what kind of universe we might discover hiding in the noise? I mean, we've spent so much time trying to fix the glitches, we completely forget that they might be the only things capable of seeing the whole system. This has been an absolutely phenomenal exploration. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Ambassador Alex, and we will catch you on the next one.
Dreaming with eyes open. Storydoy.